Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva bandhuscha saka tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Sri Dakshinamurti Sudeshikendram Dvaipayanam Sutrakritam Munindram Sri Shankaram Bhashyakritam Yatindram Maddeshi Kanchapi Namami Vidyai. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsarishibhyo Mahadbhyo Namo Gurubhyaha Sarvopaplavarahita Prajnana Ganaha Pratyagarto Brahmaivahamasmi. Om Prapannaparijataya Totravetraikapanaye Jnanamudraya Krishnaya Gita Mrutaduhe Namaha. Pranams everyone. Ramanavami wishes to all. We are in the third chapter, Sloka number 41. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Tasmat Tvam Indriyan ādau niyamya bharatarshabha papmanam prajahihyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. So here Bhagavan is talking about, in this section we are talking about desires. And Bhagavan in this section said that desire is a vairinam, it's an enemy. It has to be treated as an enemy. And he gave the Swarupa of desire or the Lakshanas of desire. And then he also gave the location, where does the desire reside? What is the base of the desire? That was given. Now in this sloka and the next two slokas, Bhagavan is giving the path to win over desires. How to control or how to win over desires. And for that, remember, when we are talking about desires here, I want to make it clear, it is the Rajasic desires that are being talked about. There are desires are of three types: Tamasic, Rajasic, Sattvic. We have already discussed this earlier when we were discussing in chapter 13 and in chapter 16 as well. So we are now talking about Rajasic desires. We are not talking about Tamasic desires, because Tamasic desires, we should not have that at all. That should be completely eradicated. Of Sattvic desires are still okay. Now we are talking about Rajasic desires only. Rajasic desires means desires that are selfish in nature. As in, I want to do this, it is for my own benefit, I am thinking of certain desires, I want to fulfill them so that I can be happy. Now here Bhagavan is giving the path to win over these desires and he is giving us a two-step plan. So in the two-step plan, meaning in the first step we weaken the desire, and then in the second step we totally eradicate them. Just like in any other place where something has to be removed, whether it is a building or a tree, what do? We first cut the branches and the leaves, we weaken the tree first, then we actually take the tree out from its root. We cannot directly pluck out the tree if it's quite huge. We cannot directly pluck it out from the root. The same way with a building also, first you have to demolish the building before you actually take it away completely from the foundation. Nobody can start with the foundation first. In the same way for the desires also, we need to first weaken it and then eradicate it. And last week we also discussed about how does a desire on an object become a huge desire. Because the desire will not come on its own. It doesn't actually become, when we first see the object, there may be a like or a dislike, but that to convert into a strong desire, it happens through sankalpa. The more we keep thinking about that object or the more we interact with that object, that is when we get attached or when the desire gets built. Remember, desire does not hold us. It is we who are holding on to these desires. And we hold it through our senses and our mind. When the desire comes, we hold them. We want to keep seeing it, we want to keep hearing it, we want to keep touching it, we want to keep smelling it. It is through our senses and through the mind. Even when we are not interacting physically with these objects of desire, if the mind keeps thinking about it, the desire is held on by the mind. Therefore, Bhagavan says, if we want to remove the desires, then the sense control and mind control is absolutely necessary. And therefore Bhagavan says, Tasmat Tvam Indriyan Ādau. Tasmat, therefore. Why therefore? Therefore, because Bhagavan says, having known that the desire is insatiable, having known that the desire makes us commit sins, having known that the desire clouds our intellect, having known that the desire is the enemy of life, therefore, and having known that the desire gives us delusion and through the delusion we commit papa, therefore, Tvam Indriyani ādau. Tvam Indriyani ādau. Tvam means you. Indriyani, the sense organs, the 5 sense organs, eyes, ears, tongue, nose, skin. With all the sense organs and also the karmendriyas, the hands, legs, mouth, excretory and reproductive organs, all the 5 karmendriyas and jnanendriyas. Indriyani means all the 5 karmendriyas and 5 jnanendriyas. Ādau. Ādau means first. So Bhagavan says, first, what should we do first? Bhagavan says, first, niyamya. Niyamya means controlling or discipline. You first discipline the Indriyas. That's what Bhagavan is saying. Bharatarshaba means Arjuna. Arjuna, first you discipline your sense organs. Therefore, Arjuna, first you discipline your sense organs and karmendriyas. So when he says first you discipline this, it automatically means there is something which is going to come next. Right? When somebody says first you do this, then we will say what happens next? What should be done next? So what should be next? The next has to be, the mind has to be controlled. And why should the mind be controlled? Because as I said, a sense object can be seen through eyes, but even without seeing it, one can get attached to that object by just thinking about it. Now we say Vishaya Dhyanam. If we keep remembering about that particular person or that particular incident or that particular object, that the mind, if we keep bringing it into our mind, whether it is strong like or a strong dislike, whether it is an attachment or a hatred, it just multiplies. Sometimes people say out of sight is out of mind, but it need not be. Sometimes even out of sight, the mind might still think about those things. So therefore, the mind must be controlled next. And Bhagavan doesn't mention that. We will have to take it, because Bhagavan says ādau. First you control the senses, then you should control the mind. And how should we control the mind? The best way to control the mind is, or the way to control the mind is, make sure it does not take any unnecessary sankalpas. It is important to note that, it is important to be aware of what the mind is thinking. We will have to learn to distance ourselves from the mind. When a thought comes, okay, this is the mind thinking. Okay, what is it thinking? Okay, this thought. Maybe it's not good. So we should be able to distance ourselves from the mind, and we should avoid thinking about unnecessary desires and unnecessary objects. So this is what Bhagavan says. So first, Indriya Nigraha. Indriya Nigraha, the sadhana for it is called as Damaha. So first Damaha, then Manah Nigraha. Mano Nigraha is called as Shamaha. So Damaha and Shamaha. And when a person is able to do Damaha and Shamaha, automatically the intellect will function better. The intellect will become sharper. And what is the prerequisite for the intellect to be not just sharp but also take the correct decisions? The intellect should be given the knowledge about Shastras. When we say Shastras, Dharma Shastras or Dharma knowledge. To the knowledge about what is right, what is wrong. If the intellect is not prepared with this knowledge, then even if you do Damaha and Shamaha, the intellect may not be able to gain the benefit of Damaha and Shamaha. Therefore, it is important that the intellect is also prepared with the right Shastric knowledge, and then when we do Damaha and Shamaha, the intellect will function better. So once the knowledge is attained, when can this knowledge come to use to us? Okay, I have attained this knowledge. When this knowledge will come to use? When the Indriyas or mind are in control of the intellect. The mind and the sense organs are controlled by intellect. Then what happens? The intellect will be able to bring this right knowledge to the fore and it can apply it in action. If the mind and sense organs are not in control of the intellect, then we will, and even if we have Shastric knowledge, even if we have the right knowledge of what is right and wrong, that will remain as a knowledge in the intellect but will not be applied in action. So, how to weaken the desires? Sensory discipline, mental discipline. Prerequisite for this is getting the intellect to gain knowledge about our Shastras. So this is Damaha and Shamaha. This is one way to understand this ādau. Ādau means first. We have taken it as first. Another Sampradaya Guru takes another meaning for this ādau. Ādau, he has taken the meaning to be, ādau can be represented as either first or before. Just now we had actually taken the meaning as first, and therefore we said next to do the mental discipline. Now if we take the meaning as before, so what he says is, if we take the word before, so Indriyan Ādau means get the sensory discipline before. Get the sensory discipline before what? Before the sense objects go into our mind. Before the sense objects go into our mind, before the sense objects after going to the mind becoming our desire, before the desire clouding our intellect, get your sensory discipline in. So this is another way to actually understand ādau. Now remember, seeing the sensory objects is not a problem. But when we keep seeing it, knowing our weakness for it, if we keep seeing it, it converts into a desire. So ādau means here before. Before what? Before the intellect gets clouded. Before the intellect gets clouded, make sure that the sensory discipline is in place. Make sure that the senses are controlled. Make sure the mind is controlled. Before what? Before the intellect gets clouded. And when we say mind control, remember it does not mean that the mind should not be having any thoughts. Similarly, when we say sensory control, it does not mean that the sense organs should not hear anything or see anything or taste anything. That is not what is meant by control. Control means disciplining it. The mind should be able to think. The sense organs should be able to function. But it should not be used for the sake of using it. For whatever transactional purposes it needs to be used, we should use them. But we have to make sure that it is not used in such a way that our intellect gets clouded, in such a way that we get addicted, in such a way that we are building some unwanted desires. We should not use it in such a way that we take sankalpa of objects, transactions, situations and people. We do not create a desire on those things, unwanted desires in our mind. So therefore, if you look at this, tasmat indriyani ādau, therefore niyamya, restraining the sense organs first. So Bhagavan said first, then in the second line Bhagavan says papmanam prajahi hyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Papmanam means sinful one. Which is the sinful one? What is the Papa Swarupa here? What is being called as papa Swarupa by Bhagavan here? The desire. Bhagavan calls the desire as Papmanam. Papa, basically it's the Swarupa of Papa. And what does he say? Papmanam. What should be done for this desire? Papmanam. Prajahi. Jahi means slay, destroy. Prajahi means destroy fully, crush it completely. What does that mean? Keep away from desires. Yenam, prajahi yenam. Yenam means what? This. Yenam is this. This papmanam, this desire which is the sinful one. Give up on it. Destroy it. So prajahi hyenam papmanam means give up on this papa. Why does Bhagavan call this desire as papa? I said, Bhagavan, when Arjuna asked in the start of this section, what is the cause for people to do desires or do a sin? Bhagavan said desire. Desire is the cause for sin, and therefore desire is papa. And if we do not kill the desire will kill us. So there is a question, what killed Ravana? Not Rama, but his kama. Kama will destroy a person. Therefore, one must destroy that kama. And what more will kama do? Jnana vijnana nashanam. This is a lakshana of desire. What can desire do? Desire is the destroyer of both jnana as well as vijnana. So if we translate the second line, if we take the essence of the second line, the essence of the second line is basically destroy this desire which is papa swarupa. Papmanam prajahi yenam. Destroy this desire which is papa swarupa and which is also the destroyer of jnana and vijnana. And what is jnana and vijnana? Jnana means the knowledge that Brahman exists. That is called that. So we, as part of this, so far in this journey, we would have already understood in the second chapter, I am Atma, I am that Brahman. But we understand that there is Brahman, knowledge that Brahman exists. Now Vijnana is Vishesha Jnana. Jnana is Brahman exists. Vijnana is I am that Brahman. Aham Brahmasmi. That is Vijnana. So what Bhagavan says is, this desire is capable of destroying both this knowledge from our intellect. It is capable of removing this knowledge that I am that Brahman. It is also capable of destroying that knowledge that there is something called Brahman. That Brahman exists. So jnana can be called as paroksha jnana. Paroksha jnana means indirect knowledge. Brahman exists, that is indirect knowledge. I am that Brahman, that is direct knowledge. Aparoksha jnana. Aparoksha jnana means direct knowledge. If someone says, like for example, if someone says Rishikesh is a place in India, okay, Rishikesh is a place in India, okay, it is indirect knowledge, paroksha jnanam. But then if we visit Rishikesh and know where it is, then it becomes aparoksha jnana, it becomes my knowledge, it becomes my direct knowledge. So this is jnana and vijnana. The 10th man story we would have heard many times. You know that there also we will have this paroksha jnana and aparoksha jnana. The 10th man story is a clear way to understand how this knowledge is got to us and what are the stages that we go through before getting this knowledge. I'll just do a quick recap of the 10th man story because it is very important. I'll make it very brief. So the 10th man story is like this. 10 people cross the river in a boat, and then they come to the other side. And then they want to make sure that all the 10 of them have crossed. So one person starts counting. He says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And he says, I can count only 9. The 10th man is gone. 10th man is lost. The 10th man has been drowned. And he starts crying. Then the other person says, no, you don't know how to count. I am going to count. And he says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And he counts also 9. Obviously, they are not counting themselves. So he says, okay, we have lost it. And they start crying. And they are very, very unhappy that they are very sad that they have lost one of their friends. So there comes up another person who is a wise man, and he says, what's the problem? And they say, okay, look, we have crossed the river, and now 10 of us were there, now it's only 9 of us now. So one person has drowned. Then the wise man actually starts counting, and then he sees that there are 10 people, and then he first gives them, don't worry. Don't worry. The 10th man is here. Don't worry. Now they feel a little bit of confidence. They cheer up a little bit, and then says, how? So he says, okay, you start counting. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then after finishing that, then the wise man turns his finger inward and says, thou art you. That is you. The 10th person is you. Then he understands, oh yes, I am the 10th person. I am the 10th person. Then everybody starts counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then the 10th one, they actually turn inward and then say, okay, I am there. And then they now become very happy. And their sorrow is gone, and then they become very happy. Now this story is to actually, it's an analogy of how we are in this world. The first stage, and there are 7 stages to it actually. The first stage is basically ignorance. Just like that, these people, they did not know the 10th man being there. We do not know ourselves as the Atman or Brahman. We don't even know that there is something called Brahman. We are born with ignorance. This is natural. Ignorance is the first stage. Then in the second stage, what happens is they have this, what we call as error or adhyasa. So this person says, oh, he is drowned. He is not there. This is the second stage. And then the third stage, there is a sorrow, samsara. Sorrow, oh, he is drowned, we are all lost, there is one person gone and we are now only 9. How can we answer? All those things. Then the fourth stage is paroksha jnana, indirect knowledge. So the wise man says, don't worry, there is the 10th man. You can be happy, do not grieve on it. So that is the indirect knowledge. Okay, there is the 10th man. Okay, the wise man says so, there is the 10th man. Okay. Then the aparoksha jnana. or the indirect knowledge, when they start counting and then they find out that the 10th is actually themselves. The 10th man is they themselves. Then that becomes aparoksha jnana. Then the 6th stage is dukkha nivritti. The sorrow is gone. Oh, thank God, the 10th man is there. There is no more sorrow, relief. The last stage is ananda prapti. Okay, we are happy the 10th man is there. We are there and we can continue our journey. So these are the 7 stages. Now if we actually look at our spiritual journey, it's the same. Our spiritual journey starts with ignorance. We don't even know that there is something called Brahman. We don't even know that there is a Brahman exists. There is something called Brahman. And therefore we are living in a ignorance leading to an error, adhyasa, and therefore we think ourselves to be what? The body and the mind. We consider ourselves to be the body-mind complex, which means the pain of body is my pain, the pain on the mind is my pain. If the mind gets hurt, I get hurt. The body gets pain, I get pain. So we associate ourselves to be the body and mind. This is adhyasa. Ignorance leading to error. Then samsara, sorrow. Just like the men were in sorrow because they had lost them, this adhyasa leads to samsara. I am old, I am sick, I am poor, nobody loves me, I am alone. Because we consider ourselves to be this body and mind. Everything that the body goes through, everything that the mind goes through is all my problem. And I also always, the body and mind will have problems. And therefore, I take it all to be my problems. Or I am in problem. And all these are false. Samsara is false. Mithya. Then, just as the 10th man was there, but yet they were also thinking that they had lost the 10th man. Did they really lose it? Actually not. Similarly, are we really having the samsara? No. But we take it because of our wrong identification. Then the wise man comes. He tells the truth. The 10th man is there. Do not grieve. Similarly, when the Guru teaches us, there is no sorrow. Guru tells, okay, there is Atman. There is Satchidananda Brahman. Satchidananda Atma. Existence, consciousnness, bliss. So now when we understand, okay, there are three types of bodies. The Atma is a Sakshi Chaitanya. There are 5 sheaths. And there are 3 stages. We have Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti. The different ways we understand about Brahman. Through the Panchakosha Viveka or the Avastatraya Viveka or the Stula Sukshma Karana Sharira. Through that we understand, okay, there is Brahman. Now intellectually I understand that. Then Aparoksha Jnana, the direct knowledge. The wise man makes the person count. And similarly the Guru says, Tattvam Asi, thou art you. Then I understand, then okay, I am not the 5 sheaths. I am the witness awareness. Sorry. Is there? Okay. I am the witness awareness. I am that Brahman. So that becomes my direct knowledge. Then the moment we get that direct knowledge, then what happens? Dukkha nivritti. The sorrow is gone. Just like the 10th man was found, there was a relief. Oh my God, at last we found him. So similarly, what we do? We know, okay, I cannot die. I am immortal. Poverty, ill health, all those things are not my problem. These are the problems of the body. I'm not worried about what is to be done and what is not to be done. Once I have this knowledge, there is no craving. There is no guilt. There is no hurt. We feel that everything in the universe is all right. Everything is as it is, I am happy with. Everything is all right. Everything is good. So dukkha nivritti. Then finally Ananda Prapti. So the 10th man is there. We are so glad. Now we can continue on our journey. Similarly for us, once we get that Aparoksha Jnana, unlimited bliss, secure sense of fulfillment. We have peace, we will have security, we will have happiness. Nothing can affect us, internal or external. Even the worst of sorrows will not affect us. So this is the 10th man story, which is primarily used by Vidyaranya Swamiji in Panchadashi. Typically used as this is the story that in our Shastras we will use, and in Vidyaranya Panchadashi it is being used as within the text itself fully in terms of making us understand about Atmajnana. So here, just like there is Paroksha Jnana, indirect knowledge, then direct knowledge. Jnana is Paroksha Jnana. There is Brahman. Aparoksha Vijnana is Aparoksha Jnana, that Aham Brahmasmi, that knowledge. So the desire is capable of destroying both. Kama is an obstruction for this knowledge. Another way to sort of interpret Jnana and Vijnana is, Jnana is the knowledge that I am Brahman. Vijnana is the Jnana Nishta. So Jnana is the stage where I have already done the Shravanam and I am able to realize that I am that Brahman. And Vijnana is the stage where that knowledge has been completely internalized. I am able to use that knowledge at all times. So that is considered to be Jnana Vijnana. That is another way to interpret the same Jnana and Vijnana. What do we need to understand is, desire is an obstruction for spiritual knowledge. When desire resides in the mind, there will not be any Jnana at all in the first place actually. Forget about destroying Jnana and destroying Vijnana. If there is desire, even the Jnana to enter our intellect will be difficult. Even in case if we are able to overcome that, in the sense, even with having all these desires, the Jnana is there in our intellect, but the Jnana will not give the benefit. What is the benefit of this Jnana? The Jnana's benefit is mental peace, happiness. That it will not be able to give. Now if somebody says, no, I am able to actually, as I come to the class, I am able to feel this mental peace, I am able to feel I am able to feel happiness in this life. That's true. That's because the desire is slowly getting reduced somewhere. We don't realize it, but desire is getting reduced. As the desires get reduced, mental peace and happiness go up. As I said, what is the happiness? If there is a formula, total number of desires fulfilled divided by total number of desires in mind. So if the denominator keeps reducing, our happiness keeps increasing. Desire obstructs knowledge. Desire obstructs Vedantic knowledge especially. So when we say, I am not able to progress on Vedanta because the problem with my house, the situation in my house, there's a work pressure, or we give some other reason, family troubles, family's commitments and all those things. No, the obstruction is not there. The obstruction is within us. The obstruction, the real issue, the real problem, the real enemy is our desire. That resides not in the external objects. The desire that resides in our antakarana, in our mind, in our intellect, in our sense organs. The desire which is Papa Swarupa, that is the cause of obstruction. So such a desire should be given up, destroyed. Bhagavan says, Papmanam prajahi enam. Prajahi, give up, destroy it. That is the first step towards Kama Jaya, victory over desire. So what is the first step? Discipline the sense organs and mind. By doing so, what happens? The desire gets weakened. Now what is the next step? for us to remove the desire completely, Bhagavan gives in the next two slokas, Sloka 42 and 43. We'll go to Sloka number 42. Indriyani paran yahuhu indriyebhyah param manah manasastu para buddhihi yo buddheh paratastu sah. Indriyani paran yahuhu indriyebhyah param manah manasastu para buddhihi yo buddheh paratastu sah. So as I said, in this sloka and 42 and 43, Bhagavan talks about the next step to completely eradicate desire. And what is the step Bhagavan gives? Bhagavan says, Atma Jnana is the means to overcome the desires. If we want to destroy the desire completely and permanently so that it doesn't come back, then Atma Jnana is the only way. We talked about cutting the tree, first the branches and the leaves and weaken the trunk so that we can actually remove the tree from the root. Same thing Bhagavan is going to do in later chapter, in chapter 15. A tree will be compared to samsara, and to remove the tree, Bhagavan is going to say one has to use the axe to cut the tree and then to uproot it totally, and he is going to use the asanga shastrena. He will say to remove samsara one must use asanga as a shastra. Asanga means vairagya as the axe to reduce the samsara. Vairagya is to reduce. Again, to remove samsara from root, Bhagavan is going to say Atma Jnana is the only way to remove its samsara totally. The same way here, for reducing the desire, what is the axe? The axe is mind control, sense control. But then to remove it completely from the root is the same solution, which is Atma Jnana. By doing sense and mind control, one can reduce the impact of desires in our mind. But it doesn't mean that the desires have completely gone out of our mind. The desires will still reside in our mind. But to remove it completely, we'll have to go through, or we'll have to get Atma Jnana to be able to remove it completely. So then what is the for mind and sense control? If somebody asks, it's like a temporary stopgap solution. In medicine, there are two types of medicines. One is known as apparently palliative medicine, and then the curative medicine. Palliative and curative, I think. Palliative medicine means it gives us temporary relief. For example, if we are coughing, we take cough syrup. Until the effect of the syrup is there, we will not cough. So the next 1 hour or so, we will not cough. But once the effect is gone, the cough will come back. So it's only a temporary solution. Just like when we get in an accident, the first aid is there. The first aid is a temporary solution. If somebody is in an accident, can I not directly take them to the hospital without first aid? No, it will die. The patient might die. The first aid solution is a must have. It is temporary, but it is must have. In the same way, Damaha and Shamaha, temporary but must have. But the final, proper, complete solution is in Atma Jnana. Therefore, Bhagavan is going to give Atma Jnana here. Bhagavan in 42 and 43 is not just saying that Atma Jnana is a solution. Bhagavan is going to give Atma Jnana in a different perspective now. And he is going to close this chapter, complete this chapter. Remember, in this chapter, Bhagavan started with Karma Yoga. Then he was asked about desire, and therefore he gave sensory and mental discipline as a solution, as a means to overcome or weaken desires. And now finally again he is advocating Atma Jnana. Remember, if you remember when we talked about Indriya and Manah Nigraha, remember this sensory discipline and mental discipline Bhagavan is not the first time he's actually highlighting these sadhanas. Even in chapter 2, when we discussed about Sthita Prajna Lakshana, he said there could be a dosha in that, and he said Rasavarjam Rasopyasya in 259, chapter 259 Sloka. He said a person who had been enjoying this world through his sense organs and mind, suddenly if he decides to discipline them and control his senses and mind, and he just stops, okay, from tomorrow I am going to ensure that I will not see what I don't want, I will not do what I should not hear, what I should not hear, I will not see what I should not see, and all those things. He puts a sudden stop to those things. What will happen? Yes, sense may be controlled, but that fancy about that object, that taste, that lingering taste in that will still be in our mind. Rasaha was the term that was used. In the sense we could have enjoyed an object, and even when we have renounced it physically, we would not be able to overcome the attachment, because the mind will still be lingering on it. Physically we would have removed ourselves from the object, but mentally the mind is still holding on to the object. And how to overcome that fault? Some people say that even if you do sensory and mental discipline, the mind will anyway have the fancy for the object, and therefore they say do not advocate. They say do not discipline. What's the problem? I mean, live as you like. What's the point? I mean, Bhagavan has given you senses and mind only for you to enjoy. So why don't you enjoy it? What is wrong in enjoying? This is what some people advocate. Who are these people? Bhagavan already had said in second chapter. No. People who use flowery words to actually mislead us. So these are their, their belief, their advice, their way of living, and they will make it so convincing for us. Because when they say it, it feels so right. What is wrong after all? After all, there are other people who are using their sense organs to do all kinds of to enjoy all the pleasures of the world that the world can offer, and they seem to be happy. But if we fall under that spell, then that is nothing but, and what they are doing is basically tattva abhasa. Abhasa means covering that knowledge. When we read some of these tattva, it will be very attractive in the beginning. But if we go in, what will happen is we will only get ruined. And this is the same thing as whether it is in today's, when the children or the school or the college going kids, when they get to meet their friends and their friends actually say, okay, I mean, enjoy this drugs or whatever, cigarettes or liquor or whatever. What is wrong? It might look very nice to start with, because it doesn't seem to affect your mind, doesn't seem to affect you, seem to be very happy. Initially it will all be nice, but the truth is not that. If actually sensory control and mind control are not needed, then wouldn't Bhagavan and our rishis know that? They know that the shortcomings of sensory and the shortcomings of sensory indiscipline and mental indiscipline, and therefore they have given a method to overcome the dosha. And the only way to actually overcome our problems, our issues in life, primarily due to desires are the cause of our sin, desires are our enemy, and therefore mental discipline and sensory discipline is a must. So anybody who actually teaches us which is not in line with this, we'll have to be careful about them. Now, after the sensory and mental discipline, what is it that needs to be done? Bhagavan says the method to completely remove the desires is Atma Jnana. Because why? Even after renouncing an object, that attachment, that fancy on that object will remain. And that fancy or attachment is called as rasam. That rasam will remain in mind. Param drishtva nivartate. When the Brahman is realized, even that rasam will be removed totally. Therefore, even in the beginning, if some desires remain in the mind, let it be so. Remember, when there is a desire in the mind, we should avoid both extremes. One is to need to express that desire should also be avoided. Suppressing it totally should also be avoided. We will have to bring in some discipline, sensory and mental discipline. Initially, it could be in the form of distracting the mind to do certain other things. Don't try to suppress it completely. Try to distract the mind. Try to channel it in some other form, in some other method. Get the mind to do something else. Get the physical body to do something else. Because then the mind will automatically follow whatever work that the physical body does. That's why in our Shastras, a lot of things are prescribed about, Shramadana. Shramadana means service to the society, service to the mankind, service to the animal, service to the environment. Because as you involve your physical body, the mind will also automatically follow. The mind will now not focus on the unwanted desires. Now we will say, okay, Atma Jnana is the way to actually remove desires completely. Now what is the relationship? What is the relationship between Atma Jnana and removal of desire? This is important to know, because if someone is in sorrow, what do we say? Oh, if one reads Shastras, sorrow will go away. You read Shastras, sorrow will go away. That connection needs to be understood. Someone is having sorrow in his life, to him if you say, listen to Gita, listen to Upanishads, he will say, what is the relationship between my sorrow that I am facing now and listening to Gita? In the same manner, what is the relationship between Atma Jnana, knowing Atma? What is the relationship between knowing Atma and removal of desires? For that, we will do a small vichara. Now we'll see. First, how is a desire formed in mind? Or what sort of mind creates desires? Now, if you look at it, desire is an expression of a symptom called incompleteness. There is a sense of incompleteness in our mind. And that is what is being expressed as a desire. Why do I want things? Because without that, I am incomplete. We always ask, what do you want? உனக்கு என்ன குறை? In Tamil we say, உனக்கு என்ன குறை? What is it that is actually, what is missing in your life? Some people say, I don't have a child, I don't have a grandchild, I have to get my children married, I have to get my children educated. That, the missing piece. That if I do that, my life becomes complete. And that is a desire, and if my desire gets fulfilled, my life gets complete. So the desire that I have is an expression of apurnatvam, a discontentment. Something is lacking in my mind, and therefore I want to overcome that, I want to fulfill that. So the question is, will a contented mind have desires? No, a contented mind will not have desires. The mind is not, only when the mind is contented fully, there will be no desires. But what happens when our desires, when we actually fulfill one desire, at that point of time it gets contented, then another desire comes. And why does the mind feel lacking? Now if you ask me, okay, mind feel lacking, why is the mind feel lacking? Because the mind takes the self to be a limited object. Our mind thinks that the self I am this body and mind, which is limited. And the mind takes itself to be limited too. Because if the mind takes itself to be Purna Vastu, which is all pervading, I am the single entity which is all pervading here, then the mind will not feel a need to actually have something else, because I am all pervading, I am the only one. But the mind takes that the self to be a limited body-mind complex. And whenever there is a limited mind, limited desires will emanate, because it is apurnatva. In case the mind thinks itself to be a Purna Vastu, the desires will not emanate from such a mind. I do not need anything. I do not lack anything. I am complete. I am Purnam means what? I am full. I am complete. I do not lack anything. And that's why a jnani does not have desires. Because he thinks, he is. It is the truth. He is Purnam. The thinking that I am limited is the thought. It is actually not true. We think that we are limited. In fact, we are not. That is the same thing what we saw in the 10-man story. We said adhyasam. Error. Due to error, we recognize ourselves to be limited. For a jnani, there is nothing to be done. You remember Sloka 3, chapter 3, Sloka 18. Naiva tasya krite nartaha na krite neha kaschana na chasya sarvabhuteshu kaschid artha vyapashraya. For a jnani, he has nothing to gain through action, nothing to lose due to inaction. He does not have any dependence for any purpose on anyone. Similarly, in the second chapter, Sloka 55, Prajahati yata kaman sarvan patha manogatan. He has no desire. When I am complete, full, I do not need anything. But if I take the self to be limited, I will have desire. Therefore, the reason for desire is apurnatvam. And why this apurnatvam comes? Because of my anatma abhimanam. I wrongly identify myself to be this anatma. What is this anatma? Body and mind. Now the next question is, why does the mind take the self to be this body and mind? Because of ignorance. Because the mind or the intellect does not know what is atma, what is anatma. Atma, anatma, ajnanam. So what is the root cause of desire? Ajnanam. Ignorance. The root cause of desire is ajnanam. Ignorance of what? Ignorance of Atma. So this ajnanam, the ignorance, leads to anatma abhimanam, which is the wrong identification. Because of the wrong identification, it leads to apurnatvam, which is I am feeling incomplete, and because of which there is a desire, which leads to kamaha. So this ajnana is not direct cause for desire, and it is far away because it has got steps in between, and therefore we are not able to recognize that the cause of desire is actually ajnana. That's why it takes time for us to understand, or we have to study Shastras to understand. We are able to realize it once somebody says this to us, once somebody teaches this. So what should be done to remove kamaha? We must remove this ajnana. So Bhagavan talks about atma jnana as the ultimate remedy for kama krodha problem. And in these two slokas, Bhagavan is giving upadesha on atma tattva. This is another way to understand atma. Just in between 2:11 and 2:25, Bhagavan gave atma jnana. Here again he is giving atma jnana. And how does he do that in these two slokas? Bhagavan talks about atma as swayam prakashaha. It is self-effulgent. It shines on its own. That which is unchanging knowledge principle is atma. What are the other things that are illuminated by Atma? Bhagavan says, intellect is illuminated by Atma, mind, the body are all illumined by Atma. The world is also illumined by Atma. It is shown by Atma. But we have ignorance. And what happens because of ignorance? Because of ignorance, the anatma that is there, the sthula sharira, the intellect, the mind and the body, we take it to be Atma. And what is the mistake? What is the mistake that we are doing? And what is more about, there is another topic that we would be covering, which is this Arundhati Darshana Nyaya. We will see that. How does that relate to Atma Jnana? We will see it in the next class. So, next class we will be completing this chapter. We will be doing Atma Jnana again. Very important to understand another way of understanding what is Atma and who am I. So, we will see in the next class. But after that, we will have 2 sessions where I hope you start preparing in terms of your understanding of Bhagavad Gita so far, especially around Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, the relationship. So I would want everyone to actually give about 5 to 10 minutes of what their understanding is about Bhagavad Gita so far, especially around chapter 2 and chapter 3. And if there are any corrections, we will try to do that corrections there so that we are all on the correct path. We have a proper understanding. I hope that is okay with all of you. Are there any questions or comments? Okay. If not, again we will see in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.